Hi, welcome to Politics Knoxville. I'm Senator Stacey Campfield, and with me today is Senate 6 senatorial candidate Marilyn Roddy. Marilyn, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I have served on Knoxville's City Council for the past 7 years and have lived in Knoxville for the past 23 years. I have a wonderful husband, Patrick. We've been married for over 25 years, and we have 3 great daughters, 2 that are in college and 1 that's still in high school. Educated at the University of North Carolina, have a degree in education and care deeply about education. Also have enjoyed supporting initiatives on City Council that have allowed us to have a balanced budget, the lowest tax rate in 40 years. We've invested in projects that have had a good return on investment or have reduced future operating costs. We've built up our fund balance, and I'm proud of where the city is right now.
Great. Well, we're going to get into some specific issues, and we're going to talk a large bit about education here in a second. But right off the bat, we're going to start with where you stand on taxes, fees, and economic development.
Well, certainly economic development and bringing new job growth to Tennessee is the most important agenda in front of the General Assembly.
Great.
I think.
Hang on. I'm going to grill you on questions specific to those.
Oh, okay.
So if we can just go with short answer. Like I said, I'm going to tell all candidates this, and we're having all candidates on the show. So we're going to ask for short answers to where they stand on these economic development questions. Would you support changing the gas tax? Currently, it's a set amount per gallon. Some people think we should switch it to a % of the sale price, so there would be more money for infrastructure. Would you support a change in the % of the gas tax?
You know, one of the hallmarks of my governing style, Senator Campfield, is to always do my research and understand the background. And I would need to know what the difference in total revenue would be with each of those projects and how that would affect our ability to support the important infrastructure that we have in the state of Tennessee.
Okay. Would you support toll roads?
You know, I think we need to keep taxes and fees low in Tennessee, and my sense is that toll roads add another level of fee structure to our state, and that would not encourage business investment in our great state.
So no.
No.
Okay. In the legislature, a lot of times local municipalities will come to us for tax increases and fee increases. Will you support or will you carry legislation for a local municipality to increase taxes or fees in this area or other areas?
You know, having served in local government, I think it's important that local government have the opportunity to govern in the way that they see fit. And I think if a local municipality sees a reason for a fee in terms of their ability to serve their citizens, they should be allowed to do that. Now, taxes and fees, I think, are the wrong way to go about creating revenue for our state. I think increasing business investment and growing our business base is the best way to grow our revenue.
Okay. Would you support or carry legislation for any statewide fee or tax increase?
What type of fee or tax increase?
Well, say like an increase in the sales tax on sale products that we sell. We have in the state of Tennessee, we charge sales tax for food, for general sale merchandise. Would you support any sort of increase for that, or say an increase in maybe fees to go visit parks or to use other state functions, other tax increases like business tax increases?
That's an incredibly broad question. I do not support an income tax in the state of Tennessee on payroll income. I don't support increasing fees in general. I think, you know, in the case of our state parks, if a user fee becomes necessary to maintain those services, then that may be something that state government has to look at. I guess I'm not comfortable making a blanket statement on that. It needs to be, you know, you need to look at the situation, but in general, no. I think increase in taxes and fees does not encourage investment in this state.
Okay. Sales tax breaks for economic development. That's something that a lot of times we have given out in the past. One that has been very controversial this last year has been the Amazon tax break. And if people don't know what that is, Amazon sales over the internet, usually within state, they are charged a sales tax. There are groups right now for us to get Amazon. We got a few hundred jobs, but we gave them a sales tax break pretty much for life. And businesses like Barnes & Noble, who compete with Amazon, do not have a similar tax break. Would you be willing to give sales tax breaks that compete with traditional brick and mortar to get in new businesses?
You know, I think this goes back, Senator, to how those arrangements are derived. And I believe, from my experience in city government, that it's the job of the executive branch, the governor in this case, to begin those initial, very sensitive negotiations with companies that are looking at Tennessee. But I believe the General Assembly needs the opportunity to endorse those agreements when they're put on the table. And I think each agreement is individual to that particular company that's being recruited to Tennessee, because the companies are individual in nature and in terms of what their needs are.
Okay. Is economic development or economic enhancement a valid reason to take private land through eminent domain?
No.
Okay. Education, another top issue for a lot of people. Do you support school choice for children in failing schools?
Yes.
How about allowing vouchers to private schools?
You know, vouchers, again, is a complex issue, and I think if we're going to look at vouchers in Tennessee for any type of private school, whether it's an independent day school or whether it's a parochial school, we need to build in some accountability. And that's the piece that has been missing in the voucher discussion for me. I think ultimately we need measurable outcomes for all of our students, and I think we need to tie accountability measures to those dollars going outside the public schools.
Okay. You're talking about dollars going out. Would you support state testing of homeschool students?
No.
Okay. Should education requirements and curricula be uniform and set by the state or teachers and the local school boards?
Would you rephrase that question?
A lot of the curriculas that we're setting up, some people say the state should have a broad, we should say these are our standards, and every school should have to meet those standards. Other local municipalities say, no, we should be the ones deciding what those standards are, and it may vary. A local municipality may say, ours is this, and another municipality say, well, ours is this, and sometimes there's a disparity between the two. But some people say giving it to the state's not the way to go instead.
Right. You know, I think we need to have a balance. Obviously, the Tennessee Diploma Project, and you were part of that, Senator Campfield, was important because it raised the graduation standards across Tennessee, and I think that's going to improve our student outcomes and improve the public education that we have here in Tennessee. That being said, I believe that local control is important for school districts, and if there are specific issues that a local school system wants to include in their curriculum, I don't think the state should disallow that.
So does that mean you think the state should set a standard and the locals should be allowed to go beyond that?
Yeah, the locals should be able to enhance beyond that.
Okay. So I just want to make clear that we have...
Sure.
Do you think homeschool students should be able to participate in state school functions such as play on sports teams, play on the band, and maybe some classes, but maybe not necessarily others if they're homeschool students?
Gosh, I know that was debated this year, and I'm proud of the fact that we have a strong homeschool community in Tennessee. I think many of those students are among our highest achieving students in Tennessee. And to allow them to participate on sports teams would seem reasonable. I think there are difficulties in scheduling and the fee structure for that's associated with some of those things like band when there are extracurricular trips and that kind of thing. So I guess I would support a blended model.
Okay. Elected or appointed school superintendent?
You know, here in Knox County, we have an appointed school superintendent, and he has been awarded State Superintendent of the Year 3 years in a row, every single year that he has been in Knox County. We've also seen Knox County be an incubator for education reform and innovation, and I'm proud that Knox County is looked at as a leader in education reform, and things are being, that we are doing here are being replicated across the state. So my experience here in Knox County is that we have had outstanding results by doing a nationwide search and hiring someone who's prepared for the job and committed to taking the school system forward.
So appointed?
appointed.
Okay. Some people would like to start a statewide school start date, so all schools start on the same date. Some people would like to say leave it up to local municipalities. Where do you stand on setting a statewide school start date?
Again, I think local control frequently has the best outcomes. Conditions and environment differ across our state. As you well know, we go from Mountain City to Memphis, and I think there are communities where it makes sense to have a later start date, and I think allowing those school systems that flexibility is important.
Teacher evaluation scores, should those be open to the public and the families, or should they be closed?
That's not an issue that I've thought about before. I think in terms of the tenure discussion, is that your question?
No, there's scoring for teachers, and they say, well, you taught this student and he went from a D student to a C student, or a D student to a B student, or a D student and he stayed a D student, or a D student went to an F student. And they have the criteria in saying, well, teacher A, all their students went up a grade, all their students grew up a grade plus, all her students fell behind, or his students fell behind. Right now, all those records are kept private, and a family cannot find out that information. Would you make that information available to the family so they could look at a teacher and say, I don't want my child in that teacher's class, or I do want my child in that teacher's class?
Again, I think there is a balance between those confidential evaluations that are designed to aid a teacher in their professional development and encourage them to grow and to improve, and information that needs to be provided to parents. I would support the evaluations around the tenure decision being open to the public, but perhaps not those annual evaluations being available.
Okay. The next group we're going to get into is sort of an either-or. We have limited dollars, limited tax dollars, and with that for education, we have limited amount of dollars for education that we can spend. A lot of times everybody wants to support education. I'm sure you do as well as your opponents. The question comes in, where do you support it? How do you support it with the limited tax dollars? And I'm just going to give you a bare bones priority so you could say, I understand that you may say, by picking one, you're not saying you hate the other, but where would you rank on priorities? So I'm going to go through some different chooses. With our limited dollars, would you spend more money on teachers in the classroom, putting more teachers in classrooms, or teacher raises?
I think that the dollars need to be in the classroom with the students and with the teachers. And when we can bring down that student-teacher ratio, we frequently see that we have better outcomes. So I would support in that dialogue, and again, I don't know that we'll always have this either-or kind of choice, but in the dialogue that you have set up, I would support more teachers in the classrooms.
Okay. More pre-K or teacher raises?
Okay, again, I'm not sure that's a dynamic that that is not necessarily something that we would be looking at. We've got to support great professionals in our classrooms, and I understand that there is still some disagreement about the outcomes with pre-K. I think we've seen some excellent outcomes, but there is certainly research with folks on both sides of that issue. So I guess in that case, I would go with teacher raises.
Pre-K or school infrastructure?
School infrastructure.
Funding more pre-K or K through 12?
K through 12.
Should more money go to higher ed, or would you say to the colleges, raise your fees